So I would like to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Ganesh Kohli, who is the founder of IC3 Movement and Board of Trustee of IC3 Institute. Ganesh sir, over to you.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to welcome all the friends who've joined us to this session. Thank you for taking the time. It'd be lovely if some of us can be on camera. I'd love to see faces, and I can see some familiar faces and some new friends that have joined. And I'm going to share my screen and really share with you an experiment that I did as a counselor myself for many years. This was really an experiment of wherein I really wanted to see how it, informed decisions can be made. This whole pedagogy, the counseling laboratory pedagogy, was born out of the inadequacy of one individual to counsel students. And I'm actually encouraging that we use the grid view so we can see everybody. I'll try not to use the presentation so much, but speak through. I want to show you a couple of slides every now and then. I love the idea of having faces on the screen. So all that I will talk about is my experiment as a counselor. And this pedagogy was really born out of the inadequacy of an individual to counsel students. Because unlike math and English, there isn't a limited curriculum here that you need to deliver. Math and English hasn't changed in 30 years, and careers and colleges are constantly changing. And so how can one individual be effective in providing guidance to such unique beings that will come to them, not just in a single year, but every year the uniqueness kind of keeps shining through. So my biggest lesson as a counselor when I used to counsel was humility. Knowing that I discovered for myself that a good counselor is not one who has the answers. A good counselor is one who can help you get to the answers. A good counselor is also a great navigator, somebody who knows not what the answers are, but what are the right questions to ask. And when you actually see what has really transpired in schools for the most part, there is the learner and the knower, or the teacher. And that model does not work with career and college counseling, in my opinion. And so I experimented with this and I had some great success. It was very grounding in that I had this realization that every constituent was needed to make good choices, to make informed decisions. The parent was needed, the student was needed, other students, colleagues of that student were needed, other parents in the school were needed, all the teachers had to be involved with the counseling laboratory, industry folks were needed, university reps were needed. So unlike a math class, which is taught by one math teacher, career and college counseling as a function really is something that needs collective ownership in a school. And the counseling laboratory is really not a room. It is an ethos or a culture that runs through school. A lot of people have asked me, Ganesh, why do you call it the laboratory? Is that, it almost feels like gimmicky, right? To call it a laboratory. Well, it is not, because, if you go into the chemistry laboratories of a school, you will find that they're mixing the same chemicals for the last 20 years. A laboratory is a place for experimentation, for discovery, for collaboration, for discovering what is not already known. And the whole process of counseling is not about repeating what is known, but actually helping a student discover themselves and discover what is a good fit outside. So the laboratory pedagogy essentially runs on the idea of a laboratory, which is an exploratory space. And it is not a physical space, but an ethos that runs into school. What we are saying is that there isn't one career and college counselor in school. Yes, you have a full-time dedicated career and college counselor or multiple career and college counselors, but you have every teacher become a 10% counselor. That is the real secret of collective guidance, and you are creating an environment which we call the laboratory, where there is exploration and there is discovery, etc. And then what happens is we start to draw down through the laboratory, we start to draw in a whole bunch of insights, and those insights form the library. So you have a laboratory where the experimentation, the exploration happens, inner exploration and outer exploration. And that laboratory leads to a library of information and insights, not merely information, because information you could still get on Google, but it is a library of insights that are garnered. So I would really want us to know that the fundamental of this pedagogy is the L2 concept, where you run a laboratory to create a library of insights. And the basis of this, all decisions are made collaboratively with all kinds of different stakeholders that conduct research to draw insights. I would not call it just data, but insights. It is unraveling a packet rather than just delivering a packet. The idea of counseling, a lot of math teaching is delivering the packet often. This is a concept. This is a concept in algebra or geometry. I have to deliver this in the classroom. This is about really, unraveling. I don't just deliver the packet. Otherwise, I would not care about what is in the packet. Here, I care deeply about what is in the packet. I actually take it out, show young people what is possible, etc. And I wanted to actually help you see real quickly what it can do. What a counseling laboratory really looks like. Before I come down to the Harry Potter effect, the Harry Potter effect is just following. But when a student, I was in Southeast Asia, and a student asked me about, told me that although he wanted to study music, his father was adamant and wanted him to do business. And I'm sure you had plenty of these examples where, student wants to do something, parent wants to do something else. I actually brought this back as a problem or a challenge to deal with in my counseling laboratory. So a student wanting to do music and a father insisting on him studying business cannot be dealt merely by an emotional response. Oh, look, he's your child. Please allow him to, study music. Don't force him to do this, etc. That would be a very, very on the surface trivial response. A counseling laboratory would deal with it very differently. It actually morphed into, we actually created a project for 20 students from grade 8 to grade 12 or grade 11, a couple of grade 12 students. We broke them down into 4 groups of 5 students each. Each group did their research. One did their research and investigated on the scale and size of music as an industry. It was several billion-dollar industry. Another group did a research on multiple different careers that are possible with music, from music therapy to merchandising with music. It was not just music performance. Hospitals were also using music to heal people. Another group of students tracked the career path of 12 individuals who had studied music as a major and how their lives panned out and what kind of areas they were working in. Another group of students did an analysis of where music will end up over the next few years. Now, when we put together all of this research, the industry, the areas of study or the areas of work, the real examples of 12 people who pursued music education and showed that music was a rampantly growing area because the creative fields were all born really out of the automation. And with the fourth industrial revolution, the more the automation, the greater the growth, the more the growth with the creative fields. So when that understanding starts to come through, this is only going to grow. We actually put this together, got it over to the parent and the student. This student, the father relented and allowed this student to pursue a undergraduate program at a conservatory of music in the United States with a minor in business, just to keep the father happy. So a great example of how, when we have the ethos of the counseling laboratory was not that I had the answers as a counselor, that there were 20 students who actually got a very stubborn parent to change his mind. And for that, there needed to be the humility that, look, I couldn't have done this on my own. This is something that needed collective effort. And there are several other examples, liberal arts. People talk about, why should I study liberal arts? I mean, you just have to look at the different jobs. I mean, technology companies have a higher growth rate in jobs that they're giving to they're still hiring the largest number of technology people, but there's a significant growth in hiring of non-technology people, humanities major, liberal arts majors. So there are many other learnings that came through. And I wanted to actually give you a couple of quick examples. We have the IC3 Institute running. And we actually get our cohort members. Some of them are here actually. This is a fourth cohort project from, this was on theater. Look at what happens in the laboratory, And I just want you to carefully look at this slide. And I'm not I'm not showing too many slides. But if you see carefully, this is the research that young people will do themselves in collaboration with alumni, with other teachers, with parents, with university visitors. And they pretty much know everything about, they're interviewing people, they're exploring. That is what the counseling laboratory is all about. This was a project where an artist was interviewed, an actor was interviewed, and there's a whole bunch of insights that are drawn out of this. And what can one study to enter into theater as a profession? How do you get scholarships? You have every dimension of, again, I'm not reading through this slide, but people are getting, all kinds of resources to study theater. Almost everywhere that I went, at least in the parts of the world that I traveled, there would be no question of a young person being able to pursue theater education in the area of theater. And the reality is that those who have studied theater can pretty much do any job in the world. They're phenomenal young people. But there are so many pathways and so many things to discover just about theater, just about Germany as a study destination, just about, every location. So the counseling laboratory actually helps with finding answers to questions on what to study, where to study, how to make it happen. And really, these answers are not coming from the career and college counselor. They are coming from within the system. The counseling laboratory is an ethos. It is the system that is actually generating the insights and the answers. So that is really the pedagogy. And, I want to give you a couple of other quick insights on what I mean by the Harry Potter effect. So what we found is that if every teacher adopts the laboratory pedagogy, and the full-time career and college counselor in school actually becomes the pivot around whom this effort moves, then every teacher will start to contextualize the lessons that they are teaching with the real world of careers and colleges. Every teacher will translate every paragraph, every page of the book that they are teaching from, whether they're teaching 7th graders, 8th graders, 9th graders, it doesn't matter. What is going to happen is systemically there will be counseling for every kid, because even while I'm teaching geography or history to my 7th graders, I am actually showing them where in their world geography and history is used. What is happening for the most part is that I learn a lesson at 9:30 in the morning on a Wednesday, and I am told that you will use it after 20 years. That completely bores me out. I get bored in school, and then I get bored in college, and I get bored at work, and then I'm bored of life. And boredom kind of completely rules in a lot of academic setting, because the context is missing. The counseling laboratory allows for that context to come through. And therefore, when I'm teaching mathematics or algebra, and I was a math teacher, I should be able to tell my student, how does a policeman use a quadratic equation? Or why would you want to do history? I'm giving you an example. Again, this is something that has come from our IC3 Institute cohort members now, and I'm sharing some of their work with you. If I'm teaching, if I'm teaching chemistry, I can talk about whatever I'm teaching. Who will use it? Where will it be used? How will it be used? I can talk about in the same lesson. I have a 40-minute lesson to deliver. If I just intersperse that lesson with something real that happens with what is being taught today, whatever you learned in those 40 minutes, where in the real world, where in my world will I see it? Where does it, history seems to be so distant for a lot of people. You can actually become an archivist. And, archivists are doing some pretty important work around medical archives for vaccine development. It is such a history teacher can bring the joy of reading Harry Potter in history. Then you are actually watching a thriller on Netflix. Every subject is actually as exciting as anything that we've seen. Why are we so interested in the video game versus interested in the math or the physics? Because the video game is allowing for adrenaline and cortisol and hormones to be secreted, which give me a high. What if when I am studying physics, I get a high just by being in my bedroom and knowing that there's physics all around me? There's gravity at play. That's why I'm not floating in the air. There's acoustics at play, that even while I'm on my computer, sound waves are entering my microphone. They're getting modulated, transmitted, demodulated. There is concave, convex lenses that some of us are wearing. There's so much physics in my bedroom. In the pandemic, people said, school is not working, school is not working. Well, school is wherever you are. Classroom is wherever you are. Geography is wherever you are. Social sciences is wherever you are. There's economics in your computer, economics in your table, economics in your chair. There is algebra on my tie. There is pretty much everything. There's psychology right here. You are actually, this Zoom meeting or this IC3 festival is an experiment in human behavior. Right now, there may be a few who are chopping vegetables, watching 2 other screens, walking on the street. How we lost our ability to be present in the moment. This is just a study of human behavior. Every subject is as exciting as reading Harry Potter. And that's what the counseling laboratory does. So I just want to take a break because, I've spoken for like a good 20 minutes and I want to see if there are some questions that are invoked. And maybe is there a moderator here who is going to help me with lead up with the questions? Otherwise, I'm happy to let people unmute and if anybody would like to share. I would like to share a couple more slides, but after we've had some interaction, I don't want to be getting bogged down with stuff. But hopefully you have a taste of what the Harry Potter effect is. We take a year to learn about the laboratory at the institute. And this pedagogy, I experimented with it for many years, and that's how it was introduced as the core pedagogy of the IC3 Institute. So IC3 Institute really was all about equipping teachers to find collaborators, to become a career and college counselor, but also to find collaborators and to do this.